Hey, all, welcome to Agile Amplified. It's been a moment as we wrapped up the first session of our podcast series. I can't be more excited to get this new season started. Today, we have with us Nelson, who's from a SaaS product management background. He has worked in multiple roles, ranging from a software engineer to a business analyst to a product manager. In his tenure, he has also contributed towards building successful startups. His recent venture involves building a workflow automation tool. When it was decided that this podcast was going to be on user experience, we couldn't think of a better individual who's constructing a workflow automation tool. Workflow tools in itself needs high quality user experience to drive product adoption. I'm sure Nelson's unique experience as a UX focused product manager is going to make this podcast a lot more interesting. Nelson, welcome on to the show. How have you been?
Thank you, VJ. Thank you for having me. I've been very good. It's it's quite warm here in the UK, so preparing for summer. So yeah, pretty much very good.
Yeah, so for the listeners listening to our podcast, this is a live remote podcast. I sit out of the India location, and Nelson is at the UK. So it's going to be an interesting global conversation on user experience. User experience role in product management. Now, um, Nelson, why don't you walk us through your journey into product management?
Yeah. Thank you very much, VJ. My journey into product management has been quite an interesting one, but I'll just take bits and pieces of it. I've been into product management now, core. So first of all, I studied computer science. So I understand the merge between the business and the IT world. So it's something that literally gives me joy, right? To build products and help people solve daily needs, right? Um, and then I started my journey as a product manager where I needed to digitalize assets for an investment management firm. I moved on to consulting, moved on to advertising, still a product manager. I moved back to consulting again, moved to banking, built my own products, built it the first time. I'm a third time founder. Recently, I just built a B2C product for users who may not understand it's a business to consumer product. So basically, what I do with that is literally helping IT professionals, with their daily tasks. Like VJ said, it's a workflow automation tool, literally helping ensuring that users can get the best of experience, and reusing the time it takes to deliver on their task on a daily basis, majorly for IT professionals. So you want to write a user stories, acceptance criteria, you name it, any kind of artifact you would normally do on a daily basis. And then we've been able to integrate our AI. On an average, we've seen the time saved for users about 8 hours per week, in terms of delivering their task, right? So, which is exciting. We have well over 30,000 users of that. Right. And my recent startup right now is literally called Superpace. And then we help businesses build custom apps and automation. So it's basically the whole user experience from the ground up, across business to consumer clients, and the business to business clients as well. So irrespective whichever side of the divide you find yourself, we are automated, we are constantly giving the best experience to ensure that the receiving end users can find the best possible results, out of all of our product that we build. So that's me in a nutshell, and what I do.
That is amazing. I mean, right from writing a user story, acceptance criteria, logging tasks, and all of that falls under a project manager as well as the IT team's arena. So I think you are making our job a lot easier. But I do have a question as to if I am your user persona, and if this was a user interview, how would you have gone about understanding user's experience in the interview?
Yeah. So as a product manager, you've got to understand that empathy is the bedrock of everything that you're doing. You've got to connect with your users. You're not building the product for you, you're building the product for users. And the minute you begin to understand that as a product manager, you begin to build better product, right? So the first thing is, you go into an interview, with a user. You try to understand what exactly is the pain point, what exactly is the frustration you're going through right now. Yeah, like this might be an existing product, as the case may be. And if it's not an existing product, you look at product that are existing in the market. So direct or indirect competitors, what exactly are being done right now. A couple of things that I do to get user research as well is literally going to comment sections, you're going to Twitter Spaces, sort of hearing directly from users, because at the end of the day, it's literally the users you're building for. If you build that in isolation, yes, there are a lot of assumptions you can make, but a lot of the times it really doesn't pay. We go into these different WhatsApp groups, ensuring that, what exactly are people talking about. A typical example was when we're building Pace AI, the B2C product for IT professionals, was we literally went into different WhatsApp groups, hearing what exactly users were talking about. Users talking about, there are no templates on Google, this is difficult to get, what exactly is this experience? We're not enjoying it as much as possible. So you begin to sort of sense that things are wrong, are broken in certain part of automating that particular tool. And then called a couple of users that were quite vocal, at the time with this particular problem that we're having, because it always starts with a problem, starts with a frustration, starts with a pain point, and literally just letting them talk. 15 minutes call, and letting them talk. What exactly is this pain point? How do we solve this for you? And then you begin to sort of draw a pattern across different users. I suggest to speak as many users as possible. We spoke to well over 50 users, literally on live calls, different from charting and all of that. But it was a position to literally gather that validated data, because data and user experience works together. What exactly is the data? What exactly are the users talking about? Do they fit into your persona? So that was something that we did. When I say we, I mean my team and I, right? So it's important that you work with it, and so everyone is on the same vision and on the same part. So yeah, we did that, and yeah, launch. We did a soft launch of a product. Took it back to the users. Is this exactly what you wanted? Oh yes, I could have changed this in a different place. I could have made this different. And all of that kind of stuff, right? And then when we went to have a full launch of the product, it was a product that was literally ready from the user's point of view. So user experience needs to be done from the user's point of view, not the product manager's point of view, right? So it's user's experience. It is as clear as that. Literally having the user's experience and partnering with the users to deliver on that. Yeah, that's my point of view.
That's amazing. I mean, a couple of points struck out from the conversation that we just had. You spoke about designing what the users want and not designing what we want, right? That's very important for someone who's doing product management, because a lot of times product managers, with their background of building products for multiple, let's say, uh, industries, they tend to use the same framework and try to solve the customer problem, the pain point. And that is where they sometimes fail, because not every solution is the same. The customer is unique, the user persona is unique, and we'll have to adapt accordingly. And that is where I think when you talked about letting the customer talk comes into play, because most of the time we see product managers, a role like product manager to start off with is a role that needs a lot of communication, right? So we talk to the engineers, we talk to customer success people, we talk to a lot of other teams, cross collaborate, and we constantly communicate. But user interviews is a lot different. This is a place where the product manager listens, right? But when we start talking more in product management in user interviews, we will not get the user's perspective. So we need to be able to allow the customer to talk. I think those are wonderful points that you mentioned there. And one interesting point that you mentioned as well is to look at the comment section, to look at the feedbacks where they talk about their pain points, because those are more valuable based on the upvotes that you get on a specific feedback. I think you will get the right priority to build as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's all about getting the unbiased feedback because as product managers, you've been building product for a while. You find yourself in a tunnel. You know, you think you're right. You think you have the best ideas. Your customers have the best ideas. You know, you've got to go back to your customers every single time. You know, and have that unbiased feedback. You know, to say, okay, right, this is the direction we're going to take based off of the pattern we've seen. So, yeah, you're spot on. So, yeah.
Amazing. And generally, when you go on user interviews from a user experience perspective, do you also take your user experience designers along with you, like the UX designers, because they are the ones who would build that UX and the wireframes after the interview? So, how does that happen?
So to be honest, personally as a product manager, it's ironic to say this. I don't like a lot of meetings. I just want to get the job done, right? If you get what I mean, there's so many meetings distracting you from getting the job done as a product manager. But with a user designer or a product designer, as the case may be, what I try to do is to have the conversations, have the interviews with the users first of all, you know, have these meetings as much as possible, filter off all of the raw unedited, you know, conversations and all of that, you know, because it's a whole lot of conversations. You have lots of pain point bias. You know, different users are saying things at different point, and you don't want to confuse your user UX designer or product designer, as the case may be, right? What I then do is to gather all of that information, sort of create like a wireframe, create like a storyboard, you know, as to where exactly this direction is, what exactly the product is going to. I mean, my job as a product manager is to then break this down into the roadmap to say, okay, this is what exactly we want for the now, this is what exactly we want for next, and this is what exactly we want for later, right? So it is important that that is done, you know, and you structure it, because again, as much as you speak with users, you want to sort of have control over your backlog, right? Else everyone would build anything they want to build, you know, and all of that, and you really wouldn't deliver the product in time. You wouldn't have the necessary timeline, because I mean, you're answerable to the business, you're answerable to the customer, and you're also answerable to the engineering team, right, to the product team, as the case may be, right? So it is important that you structure that whole process, you know, and the conversation which you've gotten from the users, you know, and then structure that into the now, next, later. You know, take that to the user product designer, you know, and then discuss what exactly have been talked about. A lot of the times, you know, in certain situations, product designers might need to join that meeting, maybe 1 out of 5 meetings, to sort of get the real pain points. Again, it's the emotions, the pain points, the experience, you know, that the users are going through or they want to go to. So maybe 1 out of 5 meetings. Again, you need people to get the job done, not literally spending so much time in meetings. So I try to protect my product team, you know, as much as possible. So people not jumping into meetings. I will handle that. I will do all of that whole legwork and ensuring that I get that. So once I've been able to define that, the product designer also gets to hear from his own point of view. So there is no bridge in communication between the user and the product designer or UI UX designer, as the case may be. So that communication will happen, but I need to define a couple of things, you know, but reduce their interactions and ensuring that the job is done. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, you absolutely did. I think what you're trying to refer to is you, as a product manager, would take the brunt of the meetings workload, and then you would involve the designers wherever required. But
Absolutely.
a quick, yeah, but a quick follow up on the same thing. because the world has shifted tremendously post COVID. A lot of meetings happen remote nowadays. Work for product manager in other areas could be remote, but in terms of user experience, it's always been challenging to do interviews, user interviews in a remote fashion. That is partially also because you will not understand the sentiments of the user or the customer when they talk about their pain points. So, how do you tackle that in your product?
Um, so I think a lot of things have changed as it is right now. During the pandemic, I'm sure you would remember very vividly. Zoom and a lot of online tools came up, and a lot of user research was happening. So this was done remotely. To be honest, literally getting to understand the body language, the expressions, the frustrations of the users is literally speaking with them. You would know, like literally speaking with them. You need to ask open-ended questions, irrespective if it is a remote interview, if it's a physical interview. You need to ask open-ended questions. So an example of that is not saying um, um, how what does this business mean to you, right? You need to ask open-ended question, right? What exactly would this mean, if this goes in a different direction, and then let them express themselves, right? So first of all, you need to ask open-ended question. Number two is that you need to take yourself out of the situation, irrespective of the medium, whether it's physical or not. Right now, I know a couple of my colleagues in the industry that are currently doing user interviews with virtual reality. So literally doing interviews with virtual reality and literally getting users to speak, and of course literally the process you would use for work. So you can use your Zoom, or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams, right? Just treat it as a normal interview, right? And have the conversations with users, as much as possible. So yeah.
Absolutely. Understanding user behavior from their body language could be critical in a remote environment. Uh, let's probably talk about a case study where user experience played a pivotal role in the success or can be a failure as well in a feature that you built in the product. Do you have any such case studies?
Right, I will speak about an industry case study and then I'll speak about a personal case study. So, Airbnb is a typical example. Everyone knows Airbnb. Airbnb is a $90 billion company right now, and a lot of that was solved through user experience, right? A lot of users were finding it difficult to book spaces, and all of that interesting stuff, right? Um, Experience had to change for the users because of a lot of the processes, in getting the end goal, of that particular process. So user experience changed again for Airbnb, right? So that was quite critical for me personally in terms of the product that I built, So what we realized with regards user experience for Pace AI was that IT professionals are quite interesting because you're spending a whole lot of time at work. You're spending a whole lot of time in doing things that are quite manual, especially writing, doing a lot of this manual task, right? And what we realized that the time it to take for a user to log in and access the solution itself needs to be very short. So because the time to value needs to be quite short. That is also user experience. We don't want users going through signing up, validating, going through, all of that hoops and going through the different things, right? So what we did was you sign up, immediately you get on your dashboard, right? So it is just a one-step process, which you said, okay, this is how we need to design it. So immediately the time to value will be quite short. So immediately you come into your dashboard, you see multiple tools, and then you can pick the tool you want, and then you can keep doing what you do, right? So we're trying to save time, and by not increasing the time it takes to value, so you don't solve a problem by creating another problem, if you get what I mean, right? So it's basically the user signing up, and then they getting what exactly they want, with regards to the solution itself, right? So that was it for us, saving them time by using this particular product. So a lot of product out there, you literally need to go through hoops, so many things before you get the value, right? And then we've seen so many users literally. there's a interesting testimonial we had from our users. I feel like a kid in a candy store, that I've saved so much time, per week, in delivering the products, and I'm getting the solution that I want. So it's basically thinking from the user's perspective. As an IT professional, how long would I want to spend to get value? As a student, for example, how long would I want to take to get my essay or my assignments done, right? So all of these things are important to think from the user's point of view, So that was the feature that we built, in ensuring that users can literally get their solution faster than normal. Right.
Absolutely. I think the time to value to any particular work plays a critical role, including this podcast. Guys, on the same note, if you find this podcast valuable and if you've already found this podcast valuable, please give it a like and subscribe to Agile Amplified if you've not done so. But apart from that, getting back to the podcast. Now, in terms of time to value, SaaS products usually require quicker time to value because the product adoption, the more quicker it is, the longer they stay with the product, the better they interact with the features on the product. So I think you were spot on, and user experience workflow plays a critical role there. Immediately after them signing up, leading them to the dashboard so that they can start using the features on the product. They can see the tasks being moved from one state to another. Those are things that is expected of, let's say, a project management tool like yours. So the quicker they're able to arrive at that, the better they're going to adopt to the product. So I think that you're spot on when you talked about the user experience and the time to value being the key factor there. Maybe we'll talk about how do you calculate this time to value, and what are the metrics that you focus on when you want to say, yeah, the user experience has been amazing. What are the key metrics and indicators for you to be able to say that? One is
Right.
obviously the time to value.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of things that we track with Pace AI, and the first thing is that daily, what is our daily, weekly active users, right? So we don't track daily because as an IT professional, you might not come in every day, right? So how many times would you come in per week, to use the product, right? So we track that particular metric. So that's the first thing. We also track what is the lifetime value of a customer, right, or a user, as the case may be. So basically, what that means, for people who may not understand, is what is the average number of time a user would literally subscribe to your SaaS product, or your product, as the case may be. So if they come in once, a month, would they cancel, all of that. And then we have also put in tools like Mixpanel, Hotjar, literally tracking users and seeing what exactly they do, right? So again, going back to time to value, we track our users, look at what exactly they do every morning independently, not violating any sort of data, but literally seeing what exactly they do. If it takes longer than 60 seconds for a user to sign up and then go to the dashboard, there's a problem somewhere. Also, if we also look at the fact that users will come back to us and say, oh, you know what, I do not understand your product, I did not understand how to use this, because we get lots of feedback after using the tool. There is feedback on that tool because, again, feedback, the users' feedback, constantly going back to what exactly the user said. That is how you build a product. Feedback users, you cannot build this product in isolation. Any kind of products, right? So we also have feedback tools. After using a tool, you get feedback, you put in feedback, and then we get this. It's unbiased because we are not influencing the user's decision, with regards getting the feedback. They've used the tool, they've seen how exactly it feels, right? And then we can then analyze that, okay, so we need to take this out, we need to include this is not good enough. And right now, we've seen well over 90% of our users are constantly giving us a 5 star, with regards to product, and then using this. So I think it's quite interesting. If that goes below, say 70%, we start getting so worried, with regards to products, and then we need to match that with our key metric, in terms of, say, how many times does the user come in a week? How many times does the user renew their subscription? We've seen users that have spent well over 1 year on the product and constantly renewing and renewing. It shows an indicator of something, right? The product is good, the product is valuable, and the experience is good enough. So again, experience can be all encompassing, with regards to the product itself. So pretty much that's basically what we track, with PCI.
Absolutely. I mean, one key metrics that we as well track is the product engagement ratio, which is again the ratio of DAU to the MAU, as well as the feature adoption. The number of features that you have and how well the features are being adopted by your customers. And like you mentioned, you already have a threshold as to, yeah, they sign in and they move on to, let's say, the dashboard page. 60 seconds is what you have as the threshold, and if it takes more than 60 seconds, then there is something that you might have to change about it. And if there are, like, let's say 50% of dropout between the sign up and the dashboard page, then there is something wrong with that flow. How do we optimize it better to make that 50% move to 70%? And like you mentioned, Hotjar, Mixpanel, Segment.io, anything that captures the user events, tools that help you capture user events. I think that is a gold mine for product managers to be able to understand the analytics of what they build, and it gives pure number. And with those numbers, you could come to conclusion as to how your user is reacting or interacting with the product. With that being said, given that in the recent days, AI has been the buzzword, and every single aspect of software development has AI embedded in it nowadays. In terms of the user experience, what behavioral shift do you see in terms of people adopting to the product, in terms of the user's journey into adopting to a specific product?
Um, yeah, good question. AI is changing a whole lot of things. I'm an advocate for AI. A lot of the products that are built right now has some sort of AI and automation happening in there, right? So Pace AI, Super Pace, AI is literally happening there, and we've seen it's going to change the game. We haven't even scratched the surface just yet, but in terms of user experience, there's gonna be a lot of personalized user experience for users. So this is what I mean, right? So right now, people come in, people sign up, and boom, they go into a dashboard. It's not gonna be like that as smart, right? You're gonna be seeing people signing up, you know, things that are tailored for them. So I'm an IT professional, but being an IT professional, I'm also a product manager under an IT professional. Right now, the things that I'm going to be seeing, I'm not going to be seeing all of the tools for IT professionals, possibly, but what AI is going to be doing is going to be tailoring your need as a user to fit in. So it takes away the noise, from that whole process, where if you want to see user story right now, everything about user story is given to you, right? So you're not distracted by a whole lot of things, right? Another thing you're going to be seeing is that with virtual reality, AI is going to be doing a whole lot of work. People are going to be using software. We've seen it already. It's not so mainstream just yet. With regards to this. So there's going to be a lot of personalized data matching with users based on everything that you pick from the internet or what exactly you pick before you sign up to a particular website. And all of that. I think Perplexity is doing this right now. With regards to their user experience and what exactly users are getting. So you come into Perplexity, you search for a particular query something. What you get is specific to that. So it's different from Google. What you see right now. So Google will show you a whole lot of things that are not even related to that. So you can begin to see that whole personalized engine and data process. With regards to Perplexity as an example, is beginning to change, right? So you see that particular experience and what exactly you get right now, and that literally helps. So it filters the noise. No, that is what AI is going to be doing. And then when virtual reality and AR gets mainstream, you're going to be seeing a lot of people doing searching for product and using product through their phones. They can use this through. There is the Meta Ray-Ban partnership right now where you can literally get to search for things and then it tells you things. GPT-4o as well is doing this where you can get to see things. So there are a lot of things changing in the game, right? So personalized data research, virtual reality, we haven't even scratched the surface just yet. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioned, there's a lot of AI products out there who can get this job done. Like you mentioned, the role based personalization could be industry based personalization as well. So
Yeah.
now people do not have the patience anymore to log into a SaaS product, try to figure out what works better for them, wait for the customer success personnel to help them out into figuring out which is the best customer journey for them. They'd rather want it all set up when they log in, couple of screen, they reach the right place where it is customized for them. The customer experience thereby becomes a lot better, and those are the products that right now is successful in the market. And AI has changed the dynamics of how SaaS product development has been played. On the same note, we also have a lot of low code and no code development platforms coming up. Everything also, is based on user experience again. So the user experience plays a critical component into building these low code and no code development apps. If you look at a low code platform, anyone with a business idea with very less knowledge in terms of coding it can still code using the low code application and still get the app up and running within a couple of weeks. That is how quick AI has made product development industry. So a lot of exciting things to watch out for in terms of how products are built with wonderful UX. But slowly digressing from the AI side of things, before we wrap up this particular episode, I'd like to understand from you, anyone who's just starting out as product managers, who want to focus on user experience, of course, what would be your advice to them? What should they focus on if they want to start off as a UX product manager?
Yeah, interesting. Thank you. So if I was starting out again, I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'm literally telling you what exactly I'm gonna do as a new product manager. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to get curious. Do not allow the inner child in you die, if you get what I mean, right? That is the superpower you have as a product manager. You you must remain curious. You must remain naive and curious. It is a superpower. A child will ask all the questions. They want to get to the root of it. Why exactly is this happening? Be a child again as a product manager, right? So don't lose that version of you. It is quite important. And number two thing you need to do is that you need to ensure that you are in a position where you can separate yourself from the product. A lot of the times, um, you might find yourself in a position where you constantly want to build, you're constantly building. But once you separate yourself from the product, what you begin to see is that the product is for the customer, it's not for you, right? As much as you're building it, it's not for you, it's for the customer. You must constantly think about that. So be curious, be obsessed with ensuring that you separate yourself from the product. You can get into the tunnel. The final thing I'm going to say with regards to this is that you must constantly find a way to hear the frustrations and the pain points of the user. It is emotions that build the user experience, and frustration is an example of emotion, right? So you must understand. Oh, and interestingly, it could also be in the other way, right? Excited, right? Your users may be excited about this particular direction the product is going to. So you must tap into the emotions of the user. Don't be in a position where, as a product manager, you cannot tap into the emotion of your users. That is how you build product. A lot of people do not use products because of the features. People use the product because of what exactly it means to them. If you go ahead, man.
Yeah.
There's a difference between using Spotify and Apple. It's an emotional connection. There's a difference between using an Android and an Apple device. It's an emotion, nothing else. If you look at the features, they remain the same. You have the camera, you have the storage, you have everything. It's the emotional connection between the product and the customer. So you must constantly tap into that emotion of what exactly the users would want to use. So this is why exactly I want to use this particular product. So, and your users will help you build your product better than you ever will do. I'm speaking from a privileged point of view because I've been a product manager, I'm a business owner, so I understand, that particular point of direction of what exactly users are constantly doing, right? So yeah, pretty much.
True, that is. I mean, one thing that I constantly keep reminding the UX product managers is that UX is pretty simple, right? Three aspects are going to be key for you. One is the usefulness of the feature that you're building or the product that you're building. Second one is usability. The third one is desirability. If these three do not um, meet in a common place, then you're not building a great UX, right? It is as simple as that. When you talked about Apple, obviously the great UX comes from not just the usefulness, but also the desirability factor. So I think you were spot on when you said when you talked about that. And a lot of product managers do have this affinity towards the product or the features that they build because they know that they have done exhaustive amount of research, they've done extensive amount of effort into it, and now they've built a solution, and when they go present it to the customer might not necessarily like it. So they obviously are going to express the pain points from the feature that you built, but the product managers do not want to really accept it because they feel that that is a failure for them, and that's a mindset that they have to change, because it's not something that is personal. It's basically them telling that the pain point is still existing and you got to solve that, right? So it's okay to do it in multiple iterations. That's the whole point of agility in software development. So it's okay that you build the solution iteratively to become the better version of itself, and at some point you'd be able to solve the customer's problem. Hopefully it's not too late in the market, and hopefully you're still in the game. But then the quicker you get it, the better it is. um, and that is what you got to learn as product managers who are just starting out. Obviously seek mentorship and guidance from a lot of UX product managers out there, including business owners like Nelson, who's had experience building products. With that, we actually come to the conclusion of this particular episode. It was an amazing conversation. Nelson, thank you so much for being here, taking your time out of your busy schedule, and being part of Agile Amplified. I hope viewers, you had a great time listening to this particular episode. Nelson, do you have any closing thoughts?
Thank you for inviting me, VJ. I think you're doing a great job with IT professionals. This cuts across different, not just product managers, business analysts, as you're thinking about building a product, all of this. But thank you. This is quite instrumental. I have learned a lot, through this particular episode and so many more I've watched on the different platforms. So keep up the good job. I definitely look forward to coming on the show again. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelson. It was a pleasure having you. And listeners, if you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe, and support the channel. Until next time with another content, this is Vijay and Nelson signing off. You guys have a great time ahead.